Whitney has a long history of using stairwells, hallways, lobby spaces. Any place within a building is an opportunity for art. When we decided to build the new building, we wanted the first thing that the public encounters to be an artwork. The elevators are central in every institution. They're literally core to the institution. So we thought the idea of making a space that's usually a fairly nondescript space into a work of art could be fantastic. We only had one artist in mind for this project, and that was Richard Artschwager.
All right, are you ready to converse? Or at the very least, to exchange straightforward eyeball to eyeball glances?
He was sort of a trickster.
Inquisitive?
Enigmatic.
He had a way almost of talking in riddles.
He was kind of dorky looking.
He had a very thin mustache and he looked like a character from a movie or something.
I think also one of the most intelligent people I've ever met. There was a real love affair between Richard and the Whitney and Richard.
He's had 2 retrospectives at the Whitney Museum.
We've built one of the largest collections, if not the largest collection of Richard Artschwager's work.
What's so key throughout Richard Artschwager's work is the sense of the familiar. He takes something you think you know, and then he does something very different to disrupt your sense of reality.
This piece is called Mirror, Mirror, Table, Table. My sitting on it throws its tableness into question.
You can't imagine that there could be so many different ways to think of a table. And what does a table mean? And what is tableness? What is doorness? Richard Artschwager had once created a fake elevator
That went nowhere.
The title of the piece was Janus 3.
When you push the up button, it would go, and then when you push the down button, it would go, ooh.
We remembered the elevators that Richard had made and thought maybe Richard would be interested in being commissioned to do the elevators for the new museum.
Richard was very flattered when Adam asked him to design the elevators. At first he wanted to make them into rooms, but then there wouldn't be any room for the people, so we had to abandon that one. So then we kept going through all of Richard's books and catalogs, looking back at some of his earlier works. And one theme kept coming up, the 6 objects.
Basket,
Table.
door,
Window, mirror.
Rug. This is a catalog from his very famous exhibition at Leo Castelli in 1976, which is the inspiration for the elevator project. The 53 drawings herein constitute an investigation of the possible forms into which 6 objects can be lugged, shoved, squeezed, and generally contorted while still keeping their individual identities.
Once Richard realized that the 6 objects was going to be the theme for the new elevators, it only took him about a half an hour to make the rough design for each one.
The piece is called 6 and 4.
6 themes brought into 4 elevators.
Themes that he created over 40 years of his work. When the elevator doors close around you, you will be completely enclosed in Richard Artschwager's world.
Artschwager's work is comprised of 4 elevators in all. 3 small passenger elevators and a large art elevator. Typically, your artwork is a finished product that you install in a finished gallery. And here we are trying to build it at the same time as the building.
We first started working with Richard in 1989, 1990 on actual furniture.
It began with this chair, titled Chair.
He was a furniture maker in the beginning, amongst other things. And he liked being, I think, in a sort of environment where things are being built.
I think when Richard walked into our shop, it really took him back to his younger days when he was able to actually construct all of these sculptures himself. But really in the last 10 years of his life, he wasn't building anymore. We were acting primarily as his hands.
Working posthumously with these projects, it's a little more complicated. We have to anticipate things. We have to imagine what he would have done.
He had great trust in Evan and his fabricators, who he's worked with over many years, that they would somehow be able to make this thing happen.
Nothing on this project is monotonous or typical. It involved a lot of nonlinear steps. So we had Evan Hughes fabricating laminate panels in Brooklyn. Then we had the company in Miami actually fabricating the cabs themselves. Then we had engravers in Ohio who were doing the engraving on the steel panels for the art elevator. And all of that being, again, amassed in Miami and then prepared for shipment to New York and ultimately installed on the site.
I'm the foreman and the installer of the elevators here at the Whitney Museum. I'd say I've done hundreds of elevators, more than I could remember. But I've never seen anything like these elevators here at the Whitney.
Even though we expect them to be used by people, touched by people, we still expect them to be these pristine works of art.
The pieces are massive. The crates are thousands and thousands of pounds. I get the pieces and, like a puzzle, I have to put them together. It is scary, because if I break things, I know how much they're worth, and I wouldn't want to have to get my company to reorder them. Nor do I think you can reorder these things, because they are works of art.
Here's my man.
Hello, Mr. Adam. How are you doing?
Okay, how are you, my friend?
Excellent.
We're so excited. So the 3 elevators are here.
I just got to see everybody's ticket and bracelet.
So this gives a semblance of what it'll be like.
Yes, that's beautiful.
This is gorgeous.
The elevators are a real metaphor for how art is part of everyday life, not something that's segregated from us, not something that just exists within a vacuum. I can't think of any other way to express in the most immediate way the values of the Whitney than through these elevators.
I think art is about experience, and the Richard Artschwager elevators are an experience. The first elevator is based on probably the most iconic work of Richard Artschwager's in the collection.
That elevator is as if you were literally inside that sculpture looking up.
It's a very kind of Alice in Wonderland effect. The second elevator, it's like a hallway with a rug that goes into infinity.
The next one is a window and a door.
And then you have your art elevator, the King, which is a stainless steel etched wicker basket.
As if you're being lifted in a hot air balloon through the entire building. In my mind's eye, I have an image of Richard sitting in his wheelchair going up in the basket or in the table. And I'm sorry that he won't be here to experience, but he has made a great gift to the Whitney Museum. He's made a great gift to the public and a great gift to art history.
I hope people really just have a sense of wonderment and a sense of familiarity, that when they come to those elevators, they know they're at the Whitney.